to Integrated EDU,
where innovation meets education.
Here we explore fresh strategies,
creative learning pathways,
and powerful tools to boost student engagement and growth.
Let's elevate education,
one idea at a time.
Hello, educator friends. Welcome to Integrated EDU, the start of season 2. I'm Kara.
And I'm Megan. All right, today's episode is all about getting rid of our classroom management with rules and talking more about how we can build up the relationships and the experiences in our classroom.
Now, this does not mean we're saying that all of our students are running amok in our classrooms. What we are doing is we're going to be talking about how maybe we can build the classroom management in our classrooms just a little bit differently than what we traditionally might see.
You know, gone are the days are the posters of that cat that's hanging from the rope. You know the poster I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And it's like, hang in there. You know, and the rules, the posters with all the rules, they're laminated. You probably bought them at the teacher store. We need to take those down and we need to start thinking about how can we build those expectations in our classroom a little bit differently and experience those.
Yeah. What we're really going to be focusing on is putting that relationship first and how we can do that with experiences. Something to kind of be thinking about is we're trying to kind of move from like the quote unquote classroom rules and moving to that building that classroom culture. Because when you build that classroom culture, you will automatically start having all of those things that you need to be successful in your classroom with your students.
It kind of our boys just started football.
Yes.
Football practice. They're 10. And
you're so excited.
So excited. They're loving it. So we're at practice. And I kind of think of it like this. If we just give our boys the football player's guide and say, read this guide and tomorrow go on the field and let's play the game.
Yep.
They're not going to be successful.
No.
What do we need to do with them? We need to have them involved in doing the experience of catching the ball and running the field, whatever it is they're practicing, right? So that when it comes to game time, they're ready to go. They're experiencing it.
Absolutely.
We want you to think about that as your classroom. How are your kids experiencing the expectations or the playbook, if you will, and so that they can do those things in the classroom? What are you expecting of them to do day in and day out?
And truly, honestly, you think, well, I told them my expectations. This is what we said. But a lot of times they don't either remember or they don't have ownership of it. And so it fits in really well with what Megan just described. If they are not experiencing it, they're not taking ownership of it. Therefore, it's in the back of their mind or completely gone. And so when we lead with experiences and relationships at the beginning of the school year in our classrooms, that strong classroom management and a strong climate and culture in our classrooms is being built.
And I think right now, more than anything, relationships are huge. We have to start with relationships. We don't know what our kids are coming from, especially the first part of the year. We haven't seen them for 3 months. We don't know what their summers looked like, what schedules they're on. And so we're thinking about how can we build those relationships with our students better. And I don't know about you, but if I'm sitting on the carpet or in my desk and you're just throwing rules at me, what not to do, what not to do, what not to do, the relationship for me building with that teacher is gone.
Yeah. You think the first few days of school are such a huge opportunity for educators to really start off that strong relationship building piece. But a lot of times what happens when we walk in the first few days of school? Just what we just described. Kids are in desks, kids are at carpets, teachers are talking at them. And you might get a honeymoon period with some of those kids, tuning in, listening, but by the second day, they're gone. And we kind of miss out on that opportunity instead of just to talk at them, get them involved. And so that's what we're going to be, really trying to share with you, explain to you, give you ideas about today is how to build that up with experiences right off the bat, building not only your relationships, but then also showing them the expectations for your classroom, not just telling them.
So we're going to give you some key ideas in this episode about how to build those expectations for the engagement piece. So experience first, right? Talk second. Experience first, talk second. We're talking creating an experience to teach the expectations you want to set in your classroom. So let's think more primary, all right? We're thinking K-5, K-6. Let's bring out Play-Doh. Everybody loves Play-Doh. You know, if you're secondary, they also love Play-Doh, so you could do this activity. So Play-Doh, it's a get to know you activity. And the first day of school is great for this. Everybody gets a canister of Play-Doh, and we have like a slide deck that says, I do not know you.
Yeah, it says, I do not know. And essentially, you just go through the slide and it's just different questions that the students then have to answer by creating a visual with their Play-Doh. So not only is it a different way to get to know your students, your kids are also involved with multiple pathways. You think hands-on and visual arts are being incorporated into this experience right off the bat. Some examples might be, like, how many siblings do you have? They could create, stick figures of how many siblings. They could do the number. It's up to them how they want to represent that information. They share with their table, they share with you. Now you might just be thinking, well, what expectations are you teaching through this? Like, what are they experiencing other than getting to play with Play-Doh?
Well, for one, I just heard you say that they're collaborating with each other. So already we're creating that expectation. How do we talk to one another? How do we stop talking when the teacher needs to talk? How do we listen? All of those things are happening right there. So that is the first thing, is how to communicate in our classroom. The other thing is how to use tools appropriately. We have Play-Doh out on the first day of school. It could get a little crazy. You can talk about, for my classroom, I'm a little bit more set in my ways, if you will. And we're talking about not getting that Play-Doh in the carpet. We're not mixing the Play-Doh right now, things like that. Whereas I'm sure Kara's classroom is a little bit more loose.
We're a little bit more lax. However, same type of situation. We model the experience, how to get the materials, where the materials go, how do we clean them up appropriately? And like she was saying, how to communicate. It's a perfect opportunity to introduce some of your callbacks that you might have. Instead of sitting at the carpet and doing it, like, have them do it real time in an experience of an everyday situation that would occur. So again, using experiences to kind of set those expectations, but a great example of experience first, talk second.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about upper ed approach. Paper chains, right? Let's think about creating a paper chain. You set the expectations in the beginning. You get these materials, scissors, construction paper, tape, and that's it. You can even make it more challenging and get rid of the scissors and say, all right, your goal in this group is to create the longest paper chain. You're going to get X amount of time. When the time is up, you're done. That's it. That's all you're going to say. And then what's going to happen is your students are going to collaborate with each other. They're going to naturally find each other's jobs. There's going to be some discord. There's going to be some disagreement for that. And how are they going to go through that? While they're doing all of that work, you're walking around and you're talking with your students. You're understanding what type of students are in your classroom. How are they talking to their peers? Are they involved in the activity? For one, you're getting to know your students' relationship that way. And for two, they're getting to know each other. Then you're thinking, all right, when it's said and done, now we're going to compare these chains. You can make it a little bit of a game, competition, measure them, whatever you need to do. But what's happening is that you are working on the expectation. Back to those callbacks. If you need their attention, this is what I'm going to do to get your attention when you're building or in this experience.
And two, for upper ed, you could expand this out. You could have, once the chains are done, you can put them up around the room, have them put goals that they have for the class on the paper chains, or throughout the year, like things that they're learning, have them jot them down and have the paper chains visible for them to see, to one, kind of keep that expectations and those thoughts of the experience kind of just visible for them to remember throughout the year. But there are many different ways where you could expand this out, but it's a great starting point for just simply the first day, building those relationships, building those expectations, but then also a jumping point for expansion and a little bit deeper community building in your classroom.
You mean like integration?
Imagine that.
All right, key number 2. We're talking about how to use the 7 pathways in your experiences.
So the first one, the Play-Doh one, we actually kind of brought that up with how we said, it's kind of a visual arts and a hands-on pathway. Now, there are 7 different pathways, which means that there are many different ways that you could bring in an experience at the beginning of the year for your kids. Now, if you don't know already, which a lot of you probably already do, I'm a huge music person, right? I love music. I love bringing it into my room, whether it's, something silly, something fun, something, content-based, whatever it might be. Have them create a verse or a chorus about what you are about in your classroom. You could start your morning meeting with it every single day. And not only is it going to be remembered, but they're going to have ownership of it because they helped create it. You could create the tune yourself or just take a tune from a popular song that maybe you all agree on. You kind of vote of, kind of what's going to be our classroom vibe,
Right.
like what tune do we want to use for this, and then have them help create the verse for it or the chorus for it. So music pathway, while building relationship, getting to know your students, kind of seeing what they're about, collectively as a whole, deciding what is our classroom going to be about, not just you sitting and telling them, this is what we're doing. Get them involved, let them have a voice.
I love that. Thinking about visual arts, which I'm really big into, is, I love the All About Me paper, but we need to kind of elevate that a little bit, make it different, right? One year, my students did a self-portrait drawing, and those were absolutely amazing.
Those are always so
And,
cool.
they emphasize the features that they love about themselves. And as they're working through it, they have such huge ownership in what they're doing. They're like, I drew myself. And this could be something for any grade level. Experience with them. For one, show them, model how you're doing that, model different ways that you're putting it on your paper, creating those expectations of the experience. But then as they're doing it, that's a perfect way to get your students involved in the get to know you part. And for your babies, you're looking at, are they holding the pencil appropriately? There's so much that you can do during this time. You just have to make sure that you're using your time purposefully.
Yeah. Another visual arts thing that we did for a few years is a silhouette, kind of going along that same lines, but they drew an outline of their silhouette and then they photo collaged from newspapers, magazines. Parents even sent some photos, which was fine. We allowed that. And they created a photo collage inside of their silhouette, kind of telling about them. And that was also just a really great way to, build relationships. Students were able to see, oh, that person likes that too. Or, oh, this person traveled here. I could go talk to them about that. Or, oh, they have a dog. I have a dog. I could go ask, it kind of breaks the ice between the students. And like Meg said, you're teaching them, this is how we use our materials. This is how we get our materials. This is workspaces you can use around the classroom, all while inside of an experience. And more importantly, in this specifically, a pathway.
Yeah.
And kind of seeing which students are gravitating towards what pathways and how that knowledge will be helpful later on when digging into more content.
And you think about one of our pathways is hands-on, right? Any STEM-based experience could be used as an expectation to set in your classroom. Really, the bottom line is what do you want your students to know about how the room works, and what things are you going to do to purposely bring that out, right? And I'm thinking, in my classroom, there are certain ways that I want things done that I feel work really well when teaching. And I'm going to emphasize those when I'm doing these different experiences. And we get it. The first few weeks of school are very busy. You want to get into your content. You want to start teaching. But here's the thing. If you don't have your expectations set, you're not building the relationship with your students. They're not going to learn from you in the amount of time that you need to get all this stuff done. So taking the time in the forefront to do this work, to prep and have that foundation set, is going to set you up for the remainder of the year. I used to tell my husband all the time, don't talk to me till October. But that's because that's how long it used to take to get the class in that
in the groove
of thing, the momentum of it. But now that we've switched to this approach and teaching them through these experiences and building our relationships day one, we don't have to wait till October anymore, and we're hitting the ground running.
A lot of times educators will ask, well, how can you get these younger students to do these experiences, to do them well, and it's because we start off right away. They know exactly what we expect because we start the first weeks of school with experiences and they already know the expectations. And so when it's time to start digging into content, the content is the focus because we have already discussed all the things that we are expecting to see, to hear while they are amongst the experiences. So it really just sets you up for success. And I was going to say, when you're talking about like starting off the year, I feel like your classroom management is going to become so much easier because you think, well, I got to dig in right away. Well, if you pump the brakes though, and you build that climate and culture in your classroom, you set your expectations with experiences, I feel like there is less to handle down the road and you don't have to stop your instruction consistently trying to remediate these behaviors because they keep occurring because you've set that foundation so strong. And so the time taken at the beginning actually helps in the long run, if that makes sense.
That's funny. I was just going to think like, you're probably thinking, what do we do about those turkey students? You know who I'm talking about, the turkeys. We all know. We know those students. Yeah. They're going to push the buttons. They're pushing the buttons on day one. They don't even have a honeymoon
phase
no anymore.
No, none.
So here's the thing though, is that those students are going to be turkeys no matter what you do. And they're going to push the boundaries of this. But the great thing is that the 20, 30 some other kids around your room that are following those expectations and doing the experience, they're going to follow suit. They're going to try, but you're going to be firm in the ways that you want to teach them and the expectations in your classroom. And they're just going to follow in and be like, well, this isn't working. And your students are going to say, hey, we're not about that in this classroom. So they're helping each other build that as well. And that is the relationship piece.
Yep, absolutely. We have seen time and time again that behaviors lessen because of how we are approaching the beginning of the school year. And of course, they're kids. Like stuff is going to happen throughout the year. It's just how that is. But it is not to the severity that we have seen in the past. And I think it just goes to show the importance of using experiences to set expectations and to build those relationships.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Number three.
Key three is
it is co-ownership. So maybe I rephrase that. Maybe I should say co-creation.
There we go.
And ownership.
Yep.
Let me rephrase. Co-creation and ownership. I think that's a better way to say that.
And this is what we're talking about. When we're saying like co-creation, meaning like you're creating the expectations in your classroom with your students, you already know what you want in your classroom. You're just guiding them to get there, thinking it's mostly their thought, but really you're just guiding it to make it happen. And one big thing, a huge thing that we did, we kind of took this from Stand Tall Steve when he talks about setting those expectations and having those values in the building. We took that and we started applying it in our classroom. And here's what that looks like. It is so powerful. The very first day, we talk about basically what is our classroom about? What are we going to hold ourselves to day in, day out when we're in these four walls and as a group?
We call them the big three.
The big three. So what we do is we sit down as a class and we talk about what are some words that we want to be about. And Karen and I, we just write down all of the words that they're thinking. We're talking, respect, trust, honesty, integrity, working hard. And we're just writing all those down. And then we guide our students to the big three or the three words that we're going to use every single day for the entire year.
Now, when this happens, students are sharing out what they feel like this classroom should feel like throughout the year. Now, sometimes students will say phrases or things like, you shouldn't bully, or you should help someone, if they drop their things. And so some of that is just kind of guiding them like, oh, I think what you're saying is, kindness or respect, or you want to see, being helpful, whatever that might be. So they might be describing something to you, and it's a great chance to do a little bit of vocab, but guiding them to just those single words instead of putting those long phrases.
And here's what needs to happen next. This is the most important part. You write them down on a chart paper or whatever. You can have your kids sign on that paper, but then it goes up on your wall. It goes up on your wall by your board, by the back of your room, by the sign out sheet, by your desk, everywhere. This is posted all over your room, and you're constantly bringing it up.
Yep.
And you're bringing it up in a way that you're recognizing the behavior that lends directly to those words. So if one of your word is perseverance, and you see little Johnny is struggling on a math problem, but he perseveres through it and he makes it happen, you're like, wow, Johnny, I just noticed that you went through that math problem. That's what we're about. We're about perseverance. Proud of you. And you just keep going. You're out in the hallway and they picked something up off the ground. You're like, hey, wow, we're about respect. And I see that you're respecting this building that we're in. That's what we're about. And you just keep bringing it up more times than not. It's going to sound broken record-ish, but your kids want to hear this. And the coolest thing that's going to start happening is inside your classroom, your students are going to start talking to each other about that. They're going to start holding each other accountable for what you're about. And then the best part is when they leave your classroom and they go to art, they go to lunch, they go to PE, they're on a field trip, and they're doing those things that you value in your room outside of your room, and other people notice. That is like, I get goosebumps. I'm so proud of them because you know that it's coming out of your room. And then when they're back in those four walls, they know what it's about. So your students that are having behavior issues, you simply say, hey, we're about respect in this classroom, and right now you're not being respectful. That's it. You don't have to do a whole thing. They know what that means.
Yep, absolutely. And we, of course, have done it with primary, but this also works in the secondary as well. Even if you have kids coming and going, that does not mean you can't have different core values depending on your period. For a second, third period, whatever it may be, because they're different. They're a different group of kids.
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing about teaching is every year we get a new group of kids, and it allows us to be creative. It teaches us to be flexible and to truly meet the students where they're at. And so, and they will come in knowing each class period, hey, this is what we're about. And again, you can try to guide them. You can try to guide them into kind of what it is that you are, hoping and wanting for these kids. But it is not just for K-6. It is literally K-12, because every student needs to know what's expected of them, and every student deserves to have a space where they know, hey, this is what they're about. This is what this space is about. And it gives an opportunity for that relationship and that firm foundation.
Yeah. All right. So the 3 key takeaways that we're giving you today is experience first, talk second. We're talking about adding those 7 pathways into your experiences, whether it's music, visual arts, movement. And then we're talking about that co-creation piece. How do you create that relationship and that experience in your classroom? We want to give you some things to walk away with. We've talked a little bit about paper chain and the snowball. We want to give you more because the ideas flow when you see other ideas. So make sure that you click on the link in here. We're going to give you other back to school experience ideas. And since you're wonderful educators, we know that you're going to take the idea and run with it and change it to meet the needs of your class this year.
Yes. So be sure to click on that link below. Free resource just for you. Take and use as the new school year begins.
We wish you the best of luck as you start your new school year with your new group of students. And remember to always go back to IntegratedK12.com, check out our blog, look at all of our socials and these YouTube videos, podcasts. We're everywhere. And we want to give you all of the things that are going to make those months coming up the best yet.
Absolutely.
So make sure to teach with purpose and have some fun and do some experiences this year.
All right, educator friends, go elevate your impact, and we'll see you next time. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with fellow educators.
Join the conversation in the comments and let us know how you're applying these strategies in your classroom.
Together, we can create meaningful learning experiences for all students.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.